Saburo Sakai was a fearless legend, the very embodiment of the samurai spirit, when World War II reached its dramatic conclusion. He had earned his place in history as arguably the best Japanese pilot of the war, with over 60 successful hits to his name. But despite his incredible achievements, he did not feel like a victor. Just 2 days after the ceasefire, an urgent report came in. A group of Boeing Superfortresses, the same planes that had dropped the atomic bombs, had entered Japanese airspace. The mere thought of another Japanese city being obliterated made Sakai's blood boil. In an act of supreme courage, he and a group of pilots took to the skies for one last suicide mission. And so, Sakai and his fellow pilots did the unthinkable. They defied orders and faced off against the Americans in a final, desperate bid to defend their country. Also, he thought, theirs was a mission of revenge and redemption, a last stand against a formidable foe. The fate of Japan hung in the balance as Sakai and his comrades hurled themselves into battle, determined to go down fighting. Born into a renowned samurai family with a strict warrior tradition and a reputation to uphold, Saburo Sakai felt the weight of expectation from a young age. In Japan, where many young men felt the pressure to make a name for themselves and bring honor to their houses, his burden was exponentially greater as a fledgling from Kyushu. Although his samurai ancestors had played a vital role during the Japanese invasions of Korea in 1592, Kai faced destitution after his father's passing. His mother, now tasked with taking care of 7 children, was unable to provide for him, and he was soon adopted by a wealthy maternal uncle who sent him to study at a prestigious high school in Tokyo. But it was on the train ride back from Tokyo that Kai got his first glimpse of his future. Stopping at a train station, he saw a poster seeking recruits for the Imperial Japanese Navy, and he figured that military prowess might be how he could live up to his samurai roots. 2 years later, in 1933, he enlisted at the early age of 16. In a sea of young Japanese men looking to serve their country, Kai was just another 4th-class sailor recruit. But he quickly proved himself to be a standout with his unwavering dedication, hard work, and ability to learn new skills on the fly. Despite enduring cruel punishments from his superiors, Kai's performance impressed the top officials, and he soon climbed the ranks to become sailor's second in class. This new status gave him the opportunity to apply for the Navy pilot training program, where he discovered his true calling as a warplane pilot. His talent was so impressive that even Emperor Hirohito awarded him a silver watch. As the Second Sino-Japanese War erupted, Kai was immediately thrust into combat, where his courage and defiance were put to the test. During his first dogfight against Chinese warplanes, he ignored his commander's orders and emptied all his ammunition on a single target, even when his own plane was left unusable. Though his superiors were initially angry with him, his selfless actions during a devastating attack on his airbase earned him a promotion and the opportunity to continue showcasing his unique skills and unwavering resolve. Months of violence followed, with no respite for the airborne samurai. However, his unconventional tactics and unyielding bravery led him from one victory to another. He took part in the attack on the Philippines in 1941, where he shot down a Curtiss B-40 Warhawk in his first encounter with the Americans. Shortly after, he destroyed two B-17 flying fortresses by strafing them on the ground. As his success rate grew, he became notorious for his ruthlessness and lethality in the air, but also for his empathy. In early 1942, he was transferred to the Dutch East Indies and was ordered to shoot down any of the planes they encountered. He once came across a Dutch Douglas flying at low altitude over the jungle. Kai assumed it was transporting important individuals and signaled the pilot to follow him. However, when the aircraft refused to comply, he approached it, preparing for an attack. But then, he saw a blonde woman and a young child through the window, and the woman reminded him of Mrs. Martin, an American teacher who had taught him as a child in middle school. He signaled the pilot to continue and disobeyed direct orders. omitting the encounter in his official report. During the Borneo campaign, the pilot brought down 13 more Allied warplanes, 3 of which were reportedly shot down in the span of 15 seconds during an intense air battle. Kai and his cohorts, Hiroyoshi Nishizawa and Toshio Ota, once executed 3 tight loops in close formation over the Allied base after an attack on Port Moresby. The following day, a single Allied bomber flew over the Leh airfield and dropped a note thanking the pilots for the fantastic display of aerobatics and promising a warm reception the next time they flew over. The squadron commander was furious and reprimanded the pilots for their foolishness. In the Guadalcanal campaign, the battle for control of Henderson Field was a constant struggle between Japanese and American forces. On August 7th, during one of the many skirmishes, renowned samurai pilot Saburo Sakai and his squadron encountered James "Pug" Sutherland, an Allied ace flying Amph Wildcat. What followed was a breathtaking dogfight, with both pilots pulling off impressive maneuvers and fighting fiercely to gain the upper hand. In the end, he managed to shoot down Sutherland's Wildcat, but little did he know that the Americans' guns had jammed. Despite losing his plane, Sutherland survived by parachuting to safety, but Kai was not out of danger yet. He was ambushed by a lone, dauntless dive bomber, but managed to turn the tables and shoot down the Allied plane, marking his 60th victory. This epic aerial battle was the most challenging of his career, and a testament to the skill and bravery of both pilots. On the same day that Kai downed his 60th aircraft, he spotted a distant air battle and decided to launch a surprise attack on what he thought were more Wildcats. However, as he got closer, he realized that the Allied planes were actually carrier-based bombers armed with rear-mounted machine guns. Despite this, he proceeded with his plan and managed to shoot down 2 Grumman TBF Avengers. But the retaliation was swift and brutal, and Kai found himself caught in a hailstorm of 30 caliber bullets. One of these pierced his head, paralyzing the left side of his body, cracking his skull, and shattering the canopy glass in his right eye. Blood covered his left eye, rendering him completely blind. His plane began to nosedive, but miraculously, tears cleared his vision in his left eye, allowing him to regain control with his right arm. Initially believing it impossible to return to base, he even contemplated crashing his Zero into an American ship. However, he discovered he could still fly and made the 4-hour and 47-minute flight to Rabaul base. After landing, he insisted on giving his mission report before collapsing. He was rushed to a hospital, where he underwent a lengthy, life-saving surgery, ultimately regaining sight in his right eye. After recovering from his injuries, the skilled pilot spent a year training new recruits before being allowed to fly again. Despite being blinded in one eye, Kai's proficiency as a pilot remained unchanged. He proved his mettle on June 24, 1944, when he mistakenly approached a fleet of 15 US Navy Hellcat fighters, believing them to be friendly Japanese aircraft. In the face of overwhelming odds, he relied on his exceptional piloting skills and experience to evade each enemy attack, deftly maneuvering his outdated Zero plane. Despite being vastly outnumbered and outgunned, Kai managed to escape unscathed, demonstrating his prowess as a true warrior. Even after the war's end, Kai was called to serve in the Japanese Imperial Navy's final mission. Though the mission turned out to be a case of mistaken identity, Kai continued with the attack even when other fighters had turned back. He managed to damage one of the Allied planes, but it was later revealed to be a reconnaissance consolidated B-32 Dominator executing a photo reconnaissance mission to assess Japanese compliance with the ceasefire. Despite his reputation as a legendary warrior, Kai eventually became a devoted Buddhist, vowing never to harm any living being for the rest of his life. Thank you for watching this video. Have a look at our other videos if you are interested. Take care.